She leaned in, whispering, forehead pressed to his. "Remember, forgiven, go." Then she shoved him forward. The world snapped into running, feet pounding stone, shadows lunging, breath tearing at their throats. Behind, claws scraped, voices hissed. Too close to human, Jin stumbled. But Lian didn't look back. She pulled him into the dark, where the city itself seemed to hunt. I heard this years ago, from an old fisherman, with hands like twisted rope, and eyes that had learned to count storms. He said, there was a night when the sea turned to glass and a city rose beneath it, towers grown from coral, streets lit by fish that never sleep. He swore a girl from that city saved his life. I laughed then, quietly, but I kept the story, because some maps lie by omission, and some loves only find you when you run out of air. Jin was a young merchant sailor with salt in his hair and the blunt faith of a man who knows the sea well enough to distrust it. He ran cargo along the coast in a boat that creaked in honest places. The crew liked him. He was the sort who mended nets before sleep and trouble after. On the night, the world stepped sideways. Fog climbed over the gunwales like a living thing. The compass spun. The wind died in a single breath, as if someone pinched its throat. The crew muttered about shoals and ghosts in equal measure. The sea went flat, proper flat, a mirror that forgot how to ripple. They drifted, and below that black glass, Jin saw lights, not lanterns from other ships. Those bob and sway like drunks. These didn't move. They were windows, rows and rows of them, stacked into impossible towers, blue and green like bottled dusk. "Reflections," said the helmsman. But the word felt too small. Reflections don't look back. The boat lurched, not forward, not back, down. A hand the size of the world took hold and pulled. Ropes went slack in a sudden, ugly way. The crew cried out in 10 different dialects, but there is only one dialect for falling. Breath swallowed and lost. Water closed over Jin's head. Cold stabbed his ribs. Sound went thin and far away. He thought, so this is how the sea takes you, without anger, only appetite. Darkness, pressure. A long straining silence. Then air. He coughed it up like treasure. He lay on stone, not ship's deck, but a rough, uneven floor that felt grown rather than built, light washed green against a ceiling inlaid with pearl chips that caught and kept the glow. He turned, dizzy, and saw an archway of red coral ribbing, a corridor. Water moved beyond it, slow and heavy as if the walls themselves were breathing. He stood. He was not wet. The corridor opened into a street paved in shell, pearly and treacherous as sleet. Above, towers spiraled in cathedral curves, bone and coral twined with glass. The city hummed softly, a pressure song that lived in the teeth. Lanterns hung from filaments, each a caged fish bright as a captured star. Their light made the shadows too sharp, like knives stacked flat. And the people, if that was the word, moved with a grace that did not belong to land. Some wore faces almost human, but the almost did all the work. Irises too wide, cheeks too smooth, mouths that smiled without creasing the corners of their eyes. A few bore touches of the deep, gills ridging their jaws, hair that drifted, as if underwater skin sheened with scales that caught the green light and sent it back colder. Shops lined the way. Not shops exactly. Stalls draped with netting sold things no sane port would count. Jars with shadows inside, each shadow the shape of a person who did not stand nearby. Bottled storms, glass trembling under knotted corks. Touch them, and thunder tapped your bones. Pearls that whispered in voices that knew your name and did not like it. fish skeletons sewn with silver thread, humming half-remembered tunes you thought you'd learned as a child. Trays of dried seagrass labelled in a script that shifted, if you stared too long, promising sleep without dreams. But Jin hadn't yet seen the heart of it, the part of the market that didn't wait for customers, it came for you. Somewhere ahead, a bell rang once, clear, low, final, and the sound coiled through the water like a hand closing around his ribs. That was the moment the market noticed him. A thin woman with eyes like polished slate tried to hang a string of teeth around Jin's neck. "Protection," she said, and the word chilled the air. He stumbled back. His hands remembered ropes, oars, knots. None of those here. He had only breath and a name. "Don't wear what they give you," said a voice at his shoulder. "Don't meet their eyes, and don't say your name aloud." He turned. She stood half in lantern light, half in shadow, as if the world had forgotten to finish drawing her. Not beautiful like a poem, beautiful like a knife you could trust. Her hair drifted though, no water stirred, bronze in the green glow, swaying with the slow patience of kelp. Her eyes were the brown of tide pools, where sunlight lingers, warm, alive, and hiding depth. A robe the colour of old jade wrapped her, bound with woven seagrass. At her throat hung a small shell, translucent and faintly luminous, like a captured breath. Jin tried to look away, but his gaze kept returning. The tilt of her mouth, half a smile, half a dare, felt as dangerous as the glittering stalls. They cut through an arcade, where the ceiling dripped slow, clear beads. Each fell into a basin and chimed, as if glass could make rain. Lian moved quickly, robe whispering at her ankles. Jin memorized everything, the way doomed men do, as if details could tether him. "Don't look up," Lian whispered. The paving shells shimmered with pictures, sky gulls, a shoreline so familiar. His chest ached. For a breath, he thought he could smell it. His stomach lurched. He wanted to step closer, to step in. "They bait you with home," Lian said softly. "Stare too long, and you'll fall through with your eyes." They passed a stall, where a corpulent figure ringed, in coral drooled into a tray of coins. Each coin sprouted a tiny mouth and drank, gleaming brighter for it. Jin shuddered. A boy-shaped shadow, with a jellyfish umbrella, trailed them, its face shifting like water. When Lian glanced back and flicked 2 fingers, the jellyfish folded into nothing and melted away. "Where is this place?" Jin whispered. "A city without sky," she said. "Built where the current forgets itself. It opens when the tide lies. That's why you fell." "Can I go back?" His throat was dry. "Yes," she said. "If you find the last gate, before the city notices, you're not theirs. And if not," her smile thinned, brittle as cut glass, "then they'll sell you in pieces, the hands that tied knots, the eyes that loved light, the sleep that made you kind, all rare things. Fetch a price." In the market of shadows, they moved quickly, each stall stranger than the last, but somewhere between a rack of lanterns that burned with trapped lightning and a stall where a woman sold bottled echoes, he noticed her hand brush his. Once, twice, never quite taking it, never quite pulling away. When he glanced at her, she was already looking forward, but the faint curve at the corner of her mouth told him she knew. He'd felt it. "Why help me?" Jin asked. "Names are just buoys," she said. "They mark where someone's been, not where they're going." "Then what do you want to know?" She looked at him then, really looked, as if weighing whether to risk the truth. "If you can swim towards something without knowing if it will still be there, when you arrive." He didn't have an answer, but she smiled faintly, as if she'd heard one anyway. "They buy names here," Lian said, almost softly. "Look around, some have none left." A merchant leaned from a stall strung, with shark teeth and glass hooks. His eyes swirled storm grey, irises eaten by pale fog. "Crooned," he sang, voice slick as oil. "Trade me the sound of your heartbeat, and I'll send you home in a foam cradle. You'll sleep like a saint. You'll never fear the deep again." Jin's chest betrayed him. His heart staggered. He felt, absurdly, the relief of being done. No more dread, no more cold night watches, no more waking at the first creak. Lian stepped between them. "He'll need that," she said, "and you can't afford it." The merchant's grin widened, teeth crowding his mouth. "Come back then, when he's tired. The tired sell cheap." They went on. Lian's fingers brushed Jin's sleeve, not quite a touch, more of an intention. It steadied him. He noticed the small things, then the soft salt scent that hung to her like memory, the way the shell at her throat flickered when she lied, the way she never looked into a lantern's heart. "What are you?" he asked softly. "Rude," she said, though her mouth twitched with the hint of a smile. Then, "A debtor? To whom?" "To the city, to the ones who weave nets you cannot see. I bought someone time, once. The city didn't take mine. It took the part of me that could leave." He looked at her then, truly looked, and saw that her shadow did not fall quite where it should. It lagged, as though it stopped to check its own arithmetic, before following. They came at last, to a hall carved from a single whale's jawbone, polished to a cathedral's gleam. Lantern light clung to it uneasily, as if the bone remembered screams. Figures waited in alcoves, clerks of the city, thin as needles, their fingers stained with ink, the colour of deep water. The air smelled faintly of old kelp, and something sweetly rotten, like fruit ashamed of its own ripeness. "This is the exchange," Lian said. Her voice was even, but Jin felt the thread of tension beneath it. "If there's a door for you, its price of it written here." A clerk slid down from a niche without moving its legs, as though gravity were only a rumor. Its hair hung in ropes. Its eyes were the white froth at the edge of a wave. "Human?" it said pleasantly, quill tapping the ledger. "Name?" "He'll keep that," Lian replied, mild steel in her tone. "Very well," said the clerk. "Birthplace?" "See," Jin said, too quickly, before he could stop himself. The clerk's mouth curved into a crescent, delighted. "All our favourites come from there." It turned pages, the paper whispering, like sand shifting in the tide. "Price to depart," the clerk said, voice smooth as kelp. "Choose one. Your reflection, kept beneath the third tower until it dulls. Or the memory of your mother's voice." The quill tapped the ledger. "Or the day you first loved anyone at all." The hall went very still. Jin's own breath betrayed him. Somewhere in that silence, he thought he heard his mother's song. "No," he managed, voice raw. "Not those." "Shame," said the clerk. "You'll be very popular sold by weight." "I'll pay," Lian said. The clerk studied her, like a cat contemplating a difficult bird. "You're already pledged. Then add to it." "I can't." "Lian," the clerk said, and for a moment its voice was almost kind. "You haven't got any leaving left." A bell rang then, low, enormous, like the sea's own throat sounding. The ledger's ink brightened, lines crawling like eels. A dozen clerks turned their heads in unison toward Jin, as if someone had pointed with a thought. "They've noticed," Lian said calmly. "We should run." "We don't have a price," Jin said. "We'll find a door not meant for buying." They ran. The city did not raise walls. It raised water. Currents lunged, like living arms curling to catch them. For the first time, Since Jin had met her, Lian's composure cracked. Fear flared, raw and unhidden, not for herself, but for him. She pressed her palm to a slotted grate and whispered in a language that smelled of brine. Metal groaned and swung open. Water fell back with a hiss, like something cheated. "Where did you learn?" Jin gasped. "Det has classrooms," she said, breathless but still amused. "Keep your head down." They darted into the garden of glass kelp, where blades chimed against one another like cautious neighbors. The sound followed them, brittle as broken bells. Beyond lay the bridge of silence, a long curve of stone that swallowed every footfall. Jin couldn't even hear his own heartbeat, only the rush of blood in his skull, loud and private. Then came the avenue of nets. Empty ropes swayed from carved poles, shifting in a wind that did not exist. And only after they had crossed beneath them did Jin see it, something vast turning in the dimness, a coil of shadow with a single unblinking eye. Blinking is for animals that pretend to rest. This one did not. Figures closed in behind them, thin ones, that slipped like eels, heavy ones, whose footsteps came late, as though sound itself refused to follow. A woman with a face like a split pearl lifted both hands. The air thickened as if poured from a jug. Lian touched the shell at her throat and spoke a word that stung Jin's ears. The air tore. They stumbled through, ragged and panting. "You can speak to the city?" Jin whispered, half in awe, half in dread. "It speaks to me," she answered. "I only answer in the voice. It lent me. Will it take it back?" When it remembers, it was generous. The tunnel sloped upward, walls sweating with salt. Behind them, pursuit thickened. Thin ones slipped eel-smooth across stone. Heavy ones followed with steps that arrived late, as if sound itself feared to follow. The pearl-faced woman left air curdled, slowing Jin's breath as though he were trying to inhale through honey. Others stalked closer, their silhouettes flickering. Too many legs, jaws hinging the wrong way, hunger arranged into human shapes. Lian pulled him faster, her jade robe snapping at her ankles. At last the gate loomed above them. An arch of colossal vertebrae, whale or mountain or god, fused into a crown of bone. Beyond it stretched not water, not air, not dark, not light, just the kind of nothing the living doesn't survive except in stories. "This is it," Lian said, chest rising with quiet urgency. "The last gate." "How do we open it?" Jin rasped. "It opens for those who owe the city nothing." She looked at him then, properly, as though memorizing each flawed human detail. "That's you, for now." "And you?" he asked, because people in love always try the obvious door first. Her throat shell dimmed. "My account is full. I paid once. Long ago. The city refuses receipts." "What did you pay?" She hesitated, shadows chasing close behind them. "The part of me that could leave." He shook his head, not in disagreement, but to scatter grief. "There has to be a way. Take mine, add it to yours." The figures halted at the threshold of the vertebrae's shadow, bound by rules older than hunger. They could not cross, but they did not retreat. They lingered, patient as tide, their gazes sharp enough to wound, their fingers twitching, as if rehearsing the moment the rules failed. The pearl-faced woman whispered again, thickening the air, until each breath cut Jin's lungs raw. Jin seized Lian's hand. Warmth flooded him, the kind that lingers like sun in stone. "Come with me," he said, and it sounded like a prayer. She smiled then, not the sharp smile of knives, but the soft, astonished kind you wear when you realize someone means it. "If I come, you'll drown in the air. The city has me in its arithmetic. Water knows how to hold what it owns." "I won't leave you," Jin swore, her fingers curled into his. "And yet, you will." She said it kindly, as if forgiveness came first. She reached into her pouch and drew out a shell unlike any he'd seen. Its surface shimmered with oil-slick colors, that slid and changed like tides. She pressed it into his palm. Her touch lingered longer than the gift required. So you'll remember the sea, and if you hear me in it, perhaps you'll remember me. Jin noticed that she was closer than she had ever stood before. The light caught in her eyes, and he realized they weren't the color of the sea at all, but the color of something you only see once and never forget. The bone gate shuddered, vertebrae humming like plucked strings. The chasers pressed forward, their hunger a palpable tide. Lian leaned closer and, in the oldest language humans ever learned, the one without words, placed her forehead against his for the briefest second. It said, "Remember, you're forgiven. Go." "I'm not losing you here," Jin whispered, voice breaking. His grip slid down to her hand. She didn't pull away. "If we make it," he said, desperate. "I want to know your real name." Her smile flickered, warm as tide pools. For an instant, she let him see the answer in her eyes. Then the city's voice thundered, breaking the moment like ice under weight. "Run!" she said, and she pushed him through. He fell into sky. No, into wind, into sound. The honest cry of gulls, the slap of water against wood, the barked prayer of a helmsman who had just seen a dead man sit up. Jin coughed up the sea, and then the fear. He was on his ship. His crew dragged him to blankets, then to breath, then to another story. "You were gone the night," the helmsman said, still shaking. "We thought the fog took you. The water went wrong, then it didn't." Jin closed his fist around the shell in his palm. It pulsed faintly, a rhythm just outside his sight, as if it kept the time. His heart didn't trust yet. "What did you see?" someone asked, because sailors can't stop making lists of dangers. "A city that breathes," he said. "A girl who owed the sea and paid with her leaving." He didn't add the rest. That she had looked back once just before the current claimed her, and in that glance had told him, more than words could hold, that she had pressed his fingers around the shell, as if giving him not a keepsake, but a promise. He had wanted to tell her. He would follow. But tides have no patience for human vows. The crew studied his face and decided, kindly, to believe only the parts that would let them sleep. Jin sailed again, because that's what men do, when they fall off the world and somehow land back on it. He mended more nets than necessary. He grew gentler, with the green deckhand, fiercer with officials who measured lives by taxes. But at night, when the tide leaned close, Jin held the shell to his ear. Sometimes he heard the sea, as if it had a throat and liked him. Sometimes he heard laughter, and once in a while, nothing at all, which is how you know you're still alive. That's how he told it to me, the parts he could say aloud and the part he couldn't. A city that breathes without sky, a market that buys in pieces, a girl who couldn't leave and a love that did. I used to think the lesson was simple. Don't chase fog, don't follow curiosity, don't bargain where you can't afford the price. But my gran, flour dust on her hands, pleating dumplings as if stitching the world closed. She said good stories are greedy. They keep two truths in one pocket. Don't look down when the sea pretends to be a mirror. And if you ever hear laughter in a shell, answer kindly. Some debts pay in strange directions.